So it just was a little eye opening for me, having to been to prison twice for drug trafficking and coming home, man, and still seeing in 2025, man, that I'm not a violent offender and I still was having issues with finding gainful employment.
Welcome to Reentry Podcast, where we always have some great conversation with gentlemen and individuals who actually have some time being incarcerated, but now they're doing some things with their life to be able to bring forth impact and be able to share their journey so that we actually can make an impact and transformation in someone else's life. So today I have a privilege and a pleasure to have a good guy who I just met just a short period of time, but I love what he's doing. I said, man, we have to sit down and talk about it. So I have an opportunity to have my guy, Gregg Champion, got a champion name in there. Champion to come to the stage and be a part of this conversation with me, man. How you doing today, bro?
I'm Steve. Thanks for having me.
No doubt, man. If you wouldn't mind, just take a few moments just to introduce yourself to the people, let them know who you are.
All right. My name is Gregg Champion. I'm originally from East Cleveland, Ohio. I just moved back to Ohio for my nonprofit. I've been back and forth last 25 years between Charlotte, North Carolina, and Cleveland, Ohio. I actually graduated from Wilberforce University, which is actually the first private HBCU established. I graduated in 1992. But what was happening was I'm a hustler, man. By nature, I've always been, but that's not a bad thing, right? So when I say that I'm a hustler, like when I was, I'm a product of a single mother. I never wanted for anything, and I'm 58. So when I grew up in that area, I'm not saying that I was rich, but we wasn't poor either. But I just took like my allowance, and I used to buy candy and take it to school and sell the candy. That, I look back to my earlier years as how I ended up getting into trouble in the first place. So it just was a little eye opening for me, having to been to prison twice for drug trafficking and coming home, man, and still seeing in 2025, man, that I'm not a violent offender and I still was having issues with finding gainful employment. And I'm a college graduate. So that's what made me start the nonprofit, man, to try to help individuals like myself to end the cycle of recidivism.
That's what's up, bro. And so, man, it's so much you have, like I say, you had a journey through ups and downs, but actually what your journey has done, it made you more aware of how you can help others in this path of where you are. And so, man, I wanted to kind of unpack a little bit. You say you was born, raised by a single mother. Do you have any other siblings as well? Just you?
No, I'm an only child.
Okay. And definitely say you grew up in the Cleveland area, and was it impoverished or in the city, or what was the like
No,
for you
no,
growing
no,
up
no,
in
no, no.
Cleveland?
Okay, so there's a difference, right? So inside of Cleveland, the city of Cleveland, there's a little community. When I grew up there, my mom moved there, I want to say 19. She moved to East Cleveland when I was, say, 6. So I want to say somewhere like 1973. Cleveland was flourishing. It was 100% middle-class black community. I was unaware of socioeconomic status, people that was on like government assistance or anything like that. My mom wasn't, so I wasn't aware of that. We as kids, I think you don't be aware of that. So coming from that community, man, seeing how blessed we was, how thriving it was, till now, what it looks like now, man, it looks like Beirut. So with me trying to reestablish it, man, and get it back to how it used to be, that was a big plus for me. And having to try to get my wife on board, man, to move back to Cleveland, because my wife she was the human resource manager at Spectrum. So having her to, because it wasn't about me. It was God's will to try to do this nonprofit and bring me back. Because I had no desire to move back to Cleveland, Ohio. None.
I got you.
And this is why, though, Steve. This is why. It wasn't anything about the climate. It wasn't anything about that. What it was is that I felt Cleveland, Ohio never really gave me a chance. Even when I graduated from college, I hadn't been to prison yet. But I had a drug trafficking marijuana. I had got caught with like 8 dime bags of marijuana in 1987. So back in 1987, they made it seem like that was trafficking, but it was weed. It was marijuana. So I never was able to utilize my degree in Ohio. I moved down to Charlotte, man. I never had an issue. So it kind of turned me off with Cleveland and Ohio. But at the same time, again, it wasn't me that was bringing me back. It was something that was bigger than me. And it was to help to try to bring my community back to what it used to be. Because people have been in management for the last like 40-some years, man, have just been stealing millions and millions of dollars, which has helped with the demise of the city of East Cleveland. So
we're going to unpack all that. We're going to unpack all that. I want to kind of stay from where you are with Young, and then I'm going to bring us up to where we're going to dig into that, because I love what you shared with me of this, some of those things that Cleveland, like you say, is going through a demise.
East Cleveland.
Yeah, East Cleveland, my bad.
East Cleveland.
Okay, my bad. So yeah, we're going to dig into it, because I really want to hear how what you're going to be doing, what you are doing to bring change in your area. And so let's unpack a little bit more about your journey. Okay, so you say you was hustling since very young, right? You was hustling candy, then I guess as you get older, start smelling yourself a little bit, things kind of shift a little bit. So what was that turnaround?
No. I wouldn't describe it as smelling myself. What you mean by that?
Well, my terms is when I start getting a little older, we start, as we get older, we start doing things different. For me, I started rebelling, rebelling to want to hang out a little bit more. So I'm not saying you was doing streets or whatever, but you got in a different path. I don't know exactly how your journey was, but let's just kind of unpack a little bit how as you start growing up, because you say you did have a degree. So I don't know if you was a scholar or whatever, but let's kind of talk about your journey a little bit. How did that go for you as you start getting older, and how were you as a student? Then how that change came about for you?
So in East Cleveland, Ohio, bro, and in Cleveland, when I was growing up, I didn't know anything about cocaine, didn't know anything about that. I did know about marijuana, right? So with that being said, at the early age of elementary, that's when I was a hustler, selling candy, doing all of that. That was just, and I understand that later on in life, that was just a means for me not to spend my own money, right? To spend somebody else's money, right? Not to spend my own money, but to duplicate my money. That's what I learned out of being that. So then as I got into middle school, I always played sports. I always played basketball, football, baseball. I played Little League football. I was a big kid. I was a little big kid. I had to play, even though I was 9, I had to play with the 12 and 13-year-olds because of my weight size, which made me better. So then when I got into middle school, strictly sports, girls, I never had a problem with education. Even in elementary, I was in enrichment. I always was smart, always was intelligent. I was the smart kid, but the class clown too. So I kind of dibbed and dabbed in a little bit of that. Got to middle school, was the man in sports. In the 8th grade, played football, played center, played middle linebacker. Basketball, I made it to the last cut, got cut. Only reason why, because I wasn't a tall enough forward. So maybe they thought I would have been too big to be a guard, but I could play, I could shoot, I could dribble. And then when I got to high school, I still played sports. I played varsity in the 10th grade, 11th grade. I was smelling myself in the 10th grade, right? Even because 4 of my best friends, we still friends to this day. We were one of the 5 10th graders that was on varsity. I was the only one that was starting out of my 5 friends. So I kind of was smelling myself. So at that particular time, I had lunch 3rd period, English 4th period, and math 5th period. I don't know how it was in school where you was at, Stephen. 5th period has always been the livest lunch period in high school. So I'm on the football team. I'm not going to math. I'm not going to English, which subsequently the next year, my junior year, I was ineligible. So I was so pissed, I didn't know what to do. I went and got a job. So I went and started. That's when I was working at Pizza Hut. And I just was working, man. And then come my senior year, I was ready. But I got into a little trouble, man. The end of my junior year, which prevented me from playing my senior year. It wasn't anything against the law. It was just some mischievous stuff that we did at school. So my whole senior year, all my friends was on the team. I was mad at myself for putting myself in a position that I couldn't play with them. So I just worked, and my grades was good, and I didn't get initially I was supposed to go to Virginia Union University. I got accepted, was getting ready to go, but I thought I was going to be homesick. You know, I had never really left Ohio, had Cleveland, just, going to see family and other places, but leaving my mom at that particular time at 17, 18, I think I was kind of scared, right? So then that's why I ended up just staying in Ohio and going to Wilberforce. Then when I got to Wilberforce, that's when the hustling started for me, right? So my whole time in college, I sold weed. I was the weed man the entire time. Not only that, but my freshman, sophomore year, when I was on campus, me and one of my guys, we were selling 3 chicken wings, a slice of bread, and hot sauce for $1. So my entrepreneurial spirit was always in me. Then I graduated, went back to Cleveland, came back to East Cleveland. I was substitute teaching at my old high school. And then where I graduated from, across the street from them, was Central State University, which is another HBCU. So because my university didn't have education, what they did was they allowed you to get a literature degree, but you got your teacher certificate from Central State, which is right across the street where my wife actually graduated. That's where I met my wife at. So, I graduated, went back. That's when I went back to Central State to get my master's. And I got in the dope game and caught my first case.
Okay. Well, I understand, man. Let's kind of unpack some of that, man. You like I say, now you're in school. Are you still, as you're teaching, are you still got your hand in the street? I assume so, because that's why you got your case. But if you can, how did that come about, man? Were you an investigation, or you just had a deal went bad? How did that come for you?
No, what happened was this group that I was running with in Columbus, they actually was looking for the ringleader, and I actually got caught on the humble, man. Bad traffic stop. I didn't run from them. They not repossessed my car, but they seized my car. They banned me from Columbus, Ohio for like 25 years. I'm unable to hold residency in Columbus, Ohio, but that was like almost 30-some years ago. So I just moved back after that happened. I didn't go to prison. I just beat it. I got 5 years probation. So after 4 years and 6 months, the last 6 months, they wanted to monitor my probation in Cleveland. For 6 months in Cleveland, man, I just had a PO probation officer. She just didn't understand how I got caught with that much dope and didn't go to prison. So I was unwilling to, to explain to her that I actually bought my case. And she just didn't understand that. And I really wasn't trying to fill her in on everything. And so she violated my probation, and that's when I ended up going to prison the first time. So then when I came home, I got into debt collections. That's why I was telling you I got into that, and I had been in that since 99.
Let me ask you this. So how long did you get to the sentence for?
1 year.
Okay. Yeah, man. So how was that experience, man? How did that go down for you going to prison the first time? What was that what were you thinking? What were you feeling knowing that, man, I'm about to do a year in prison? What was your mindset, or what was your heart? What was that experience for you?
I mean, for one, I was never scared. Prison never scared me. I'm not saying that I'm boasting like I'm the biggest, baddest guy on the street, but my entire life, I never had a problem. I've been fighting not fighting, but yeah, I grew up in an era where we fought. Wasn't no pistols, none of that. And I just was beating up a lot of guys. So prison was never scared for me. I never was scared about it. I just was trying to figure out how I can get past the manipulators, right? Because there's people in there that's all they do, 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. They just sit in their cells or sit around and just think about how they can beat the system and get over on any and everybody. So it just allowed me to go in there and just look and observe and to see how things was done. So after that year, I just came out and said I wasn't going back again. And I came out, and that's when I got into the field debt collections.
Okay. So let's just stay right there, man. You say you learned just how to learn peep game on those guys who manipulate and things like that. So when you went in, now they look at you, I don't know, they call it fish where you was at. That's what terms I've heard. How did you settle yourself in order to realize, man, hey, you stood your ground? Did you have any problems when you went in?
I ain't had no problems.
Okay.
I had no problems.
Okay.
For one, I wasn't going to have any problems anyway. I'm kind of not going to say that I'm the boldest, baddest guy in the world, but where I went, I knew a lot of people that knew me. So that part, I wasn't worried about that. But even if I didn't, I'm confident in myself that I could hold my own. So that type of atmosphere doesn't scare me. So I just went in there, man, and just processed and see how they ran things in there. Seeing the cliques, seeing how people operate, see how people that don't got no money, how they do, what they do they steal, do they do this, do they do that? I just, grasped and took inventory of everything that was going on in the old DRC, Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections.
So in there, what was prison life like? Was you able to? I think we talked about it, but kind of explain to what prison life was like. Do like I say, was it something that you can really rehabilitate from, or was it kind of what was prison life? Saying was it? I know it wasn't fair by any means, but what's some of the things that you say, man, this was something that I took from it that I know I need to have made a change, because knowing that what you're saying now of where you are and why you came back, because you've seen some things that you could better. So what was it that made you realize you went through that you said, man, I got to be a change agent for this? What was it that you had experienced?
I would say what I experienced in there is seeing how dehumanized, right, you are as a man inside of a facility like prison. You dehumanized. Everything about you being a man is taken away from you. Everything. The way there's no me time, right? So that when there's no quiet time, right? So all of the stuff that you probably took advantage of when you were free, or the little things that you take for granted, I mean, you cherish when you in there, right? You be like, oh man, I wish I had that, right? Because you're dealing with egos, you're dealing with people that you don't know, hidden agendas, people that, you don't know what they're up to, right? They put you in a cell with a guy you never met before. He could be a killer. He could be anything. The slightest thing could set him off, and he could take your life in your sleep. So you just have to be mentally aware of your surroundings, who you with. And you just have to maintain, I feel, not to get caught up in the prison industries and everything that goes on in prison and get caught up in that. And that's one of the things too, is that I didn't want to go in there and act like them and be like them and start doing that type of stuff and bring it out on the streets. So that was one of the things too, that I didn't want to get caught up in that prison life. I just wanted to go in there, do my time, pay my debt to society, and come out.
Okay. Now, once you came out, what was it that experience of your transitioning back into society? Was it a smooth transition, or did you have to go through a lot? What was that life transitioning back out? Did you go through certain courses that prepared you or not?
No, I had to go through no courses. For me, the biggest thing was dealing with the parole people, right? Dealing with them all in your business. You having to go down there, pee in a cup and do all that. Man, I ain't really want to go through all that. I'm not a drug user. I just smoke marijuana. But, that thing there just was, when you get, even though you're not a cocaine user, if you get caught with cocaine or you get caught with heroin, they still piss testing you, giving you urine tests to see whether you're using it or not. But I've never used that substance. So why do you test for that? I can understand you testing for marijuana, but not that.
Yeah. And so once you got out, were you on probation at that point, or were you now free of probation? You was clear of probation, or you still had some more time?
9 months.
Okay.
So in Ohio, what Ohio does is they give you what's called post-release control for 9 months. So they monitor you for 9 months. Then after that 9 months, depending upon your charge, it might be more, but mine was 9 months. So they monitor you for 9 months and then they cut you loose.
Okay. And so what was life like now that you got out? What were you doing with yourself?
I found a job in debt collections. I had never did that before. I saw that my gift of gab and trying to make people pay something that they didn't want to pay worked for me. I like that. Because for me, I looked at it as I was just like I was selling dope. So when I would get a payment from making somebody pay something that they really didn't want to pay, it gave me a rush as though I was selling drugs and I got money for the drugs that I just sold. So that's what I got out of that field.
And so how long you did that for quite some time, and where did that lead you to where I know you end up coming down south? What was that like for you with that transition, and how with you far as you moving from doing what you were doing there in Cleveland? Did that bring you here in the South?
Yeah, what happened was it brought me down to the South. So a company brought me to the South, and that's why I said, my kids was born down there.
Okay.
Company got me there. And what I realized though was that I liked down there. I liked being in the South, in the Carolinas, because it was a fresh start for me. None of the things that was happening to me, none of that travel from Ohio to North Carolina. And that particular field, man, I just took off in it. and I kind of never looked back.
Okay.
But then I did. I kind of dipped back. I got down to North Carolina, man, and I dipped back into them trees, man.
Okay. Let's unpack that, man, because we want to help somebody, because sometimes you can be doing good. And like I said, even for me, I'm getting a little bit of my testimony. I remember the time I got from the streets, and not saying I was ever heavy in them, but, I was listening when my pastor was telling, hey, go back and take this message and let somebody else with the message and all that. And I found myself going back, and that's back in the day when we had cassette tapes and CDs and stuff. And so I would go back and take the CD to one of my partners at the service, and we sit down, he's smoking a blunt or whatever, and he doing what he do. And so I end up just going to see him. It went from going to see him, drinking a beer, to let me hit it one time, to now I'm back buying bags myself, you know what I'm saying? So sometimes, something, what I'm saying, and I heard it like this. My uncle said, it takes more for you to more strength for you to pull somebody up than them to pull you down. And so you have to make sure you protect yourself at all times. Don't overthink that you think you're so strong you can't ever slip. And so don't put yourself in those vulnerable spots. But knowing that happened, what kind of led you, or what kind of opened that door for it to happen for you?
So I'm down in Charlotte. I want to say this 2001. By this time, let's be clear now. Even though I have a degree, my whole mind frame is to not work for an individual. My whole mind frame was, with my degree, what I learned in college was to be an entrepreneur. That's what Wilberforce University taught me. It taught me how to be an entrepreneur, not to work for anybody. So that's where my mind frame was in the debt collection industry, right? So in that aspect, I felt as though I worked in the back of the house, right? So I wanted to be in the front of the house, whereas that was the owners, the managers, all of that. I wanted to know how that operated so that I can go out on my own, because I understood in that particular field, you can go out on your own. You can branch out on your own if you have the means to. But if you don't have the means to, then you're kind of stuck working for an entity like that. So I learned that I could do this by myself. So I had a little money, and I went out and started GDC Solutions LLC, which is my acronym for my name. It was a debt collection agency. So I started it. I had a little money, and I tried to get it off of the ground, but I dipped back into the hustling field, because at the time, what I needed to get the company off of the ground, I didn't have all the money. And I got back in the dope game in Charlotte. This was my first time selling cocaine in North Carolina, and I was rolling. But what it did was it caused rift between me and my first wife. Even though I talked to her before I got in it, I told her, I said, this was going to be a thing. I'm going to get in and I'm going to get out. She was with it at first, but then she tried to give me an ultimatum. I really wasn't feeling the ultimatum. So that kind of put a bridge in my first marriage. But then I want to say maybe 2-3 months after that, I'm coming from Cleveland and I'm coming to Charlotte, and I get stopped on the highway and I got a kilo. They let me go. On this traffic stop, let me go, then tried to pull me back over. And when they tried to pull me back over, I ran from them, got away from them. So it was like one particular city stopped me, but then I got back to Charlotte, and then that city sent Charlotte Mecklenburg police to my house. And I was like, they didn't have an arrest warrant or anything. Long story short, I got caught at the prison in North Carolina for 7 years. And then when I came home in North Carolina, I still was in the debt collection, still trying to do that. But at that particular time, there was rift between me and my ex-wife, dealing with my kids. So I was in prison for 7 years and never got to see him, even though I talked to him on the phone every week. So there was animosity that she had with me. I came home, I tried to do everything right in North Carolina, but then I ended up moving back to Cleveland. Things were going good for me working for agencies, but I was in that entrepreneurial status and I just wanted to do my own thing. So it forced me to come back to Cleveland. Came back to Cleveland, and I was doing I was fooling with the government phones, where they give it, if you have, them free government phones.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, I was killing them in the summer of 16, the summer of 15, 16, 17. I was killing them, man. I was probably one of the best ones in Cleveland with them doing them phones. But, I messed around, because that's a summer thing, especially in Ohio. See, I couldn't do it down there in Ohio in the winter. It's snowing. So it ain't like it's in North Carolina where you could be kind of, you could make your way. So I dipped back into the game again. And that's when I get caught again. So I go to prison at 18 and I come home at 22. So while I was in prison this time at 18, I really saw, that's why I was telling you that there wasn't any programs for nonviolent offenders or anything. It was just for rapists, domestic violence people, things like that, but nothing for nonviolent offenders like myself. So the whole time that I was in, this time I said, I'm going to do something to help people like me. So that was my whole thought process while I was in.
So what did you do? Did you do some things while you were in, or you waited till you got out and then you started doing some things to kind of work along those lines to help those individuals to get, position themselves better?
You know what I was doing was I was trying to give them, I was having credit awareness classes, right?
Okay.
Because a lot of those guys didn't know anything about credit, right? How to apply for credit, how to get credit cards, what credit, building credit, bankruptcy, any of that. So I started off by just having informal chats with them, conversations, we'd talk. Then it started getting bigger. 1 or 2 inmates at first, 4 or 5 inmates. Then next time we in the library and we talking about it, and then they started, wanting to go to school, right? Trying to get their GED and things like that. So then I said to myself, this is where I'm meant to be. I'm meant to help people like myself. So I came home, and that's when I got back into the debt collection, man, but my heart wasn't in it. My heart wasn't in it. My heart was somewhere else, and that's when I started Project Change Recidivism.
That's good, man. And so if you don't mind, just kind of give us a little bit more what frame that you pretty much doing with your program now. What does that look like? What are you doing?
Well, I just actually started. I've had this nonprofit for a year. I actually started it in North Carolina. So because I had been in prison in both states, I registered the nonprofit in both states. I'm registered in North Carolina, and I'm also registered in Ohio. So with me, with the nonprofits, I had a conversation with the lady from the Cleveland Foundation, and she didn't think that I was grassroots because of the area code on my phone number. And she was telling me that I was like, I'm from Cleveland, just because I didn't want to get into an argument with her. I felt as though what she was telling me was right, and I prayed about it. And that's when God decided, the best thing for me to do was to come back to Cleveland. So with me coming back, I said to myself, what can I do to help the people like myself? So I started reaching out when I got my 501c3. I started reaching out to the EPA in Ohio because East Cleveland, like I was telling you, man, looks like it's Beirut now. So it needs to be cleaned up, man. And if you ever get a chance, you go on YouTube and just look at some videos on East Cleveland. It's a disaster area now, but it didn't used to be like that. And in this last spring, I met with Miss Sandra Morgan. She was the interim mayor. It's crazy that the former mayor, which was Brandon King, we grew up together, elementary, middle school, high school. He got arrested for some stuff, for some embezzlement and stuff like that. So they removed him and put her in. I had a meeting with her, I want to say in April, May or June. We talked. She's with recidivism, right? She's with convicted felons, helping pay back their debt to society, right? So she was telling me about, she wanted to implement a 4-month pilot program with the city of East Cleveland in the services department. So that was our initial conversation. 2 days after that, they walked her out of there. They dismissed her because they said that the city of East Cleveland didn't go by a proper protocol after they removed the current mayor. They were supposed to put the city council president as what the law states. So in that, talking to her, me and her are in a collaboration to try to help each other. So that was my vision there, was to try to see what can I do with the city of East Cleveland. Because I told her that I had spoke with the EPA in Ohio, and they had told me that Northeast Ohio had just been awarded $1.6 million for recycling and litter pickup. And I had asked her, well, how much did East Cleveland get? And she said that the former mayor didn't even apply for any of the money. So that's where our paths crossed at, trying to help the city.
That's good, man. That's good. So now, y'all, I don't know if y'all still in communication, but what are you doing with the individuals? How are you going about, are you working towards really impacting the lives of those who were incarcerated or things like that? What's your goals, or what are you looking at doing?
Okay, so with the incarcerated individuals, so again, I was working with Miss Deborah Turner. She's a Cleveland judge, and Cleveland municipal judge in the city of Cleveland. So in the Department of Corrections, Rehabilitation and Corrections in Ohio, in order for you to get a program that's the state runs where the inmates can get credit for it, it has to be implemented by, say, a judge. So Miss Turner, my first cousin, is her bailiff. So initially, I was dealing with her last spring, trying to see if we could meet and see if I could help, see if she could implement some of these programs. So that was my focus there. And then me dealing with Miss Sandra Morgan here. And I also was dealing with Mr. William Mosley, the judge in East Cleveland. We were talking about how my nonprofit can help with the litter pickup. Because all communities have litter pickup where, like, if you go to court and they give you community service, you pick up litter and trash around the Woodland. So they didn't have any equipment. They don't have any of that. So that's where my nonprofit was coming in to try to provide the equipment. So the election is next week. Ms. Morgan will be elected in East Cleveland. So everything I feel is gonna all come together after next week.
Yeah, yeah. I'm glad you said that, because I went and voted today, man. But those who,
There
hey,
you
if you
go.
got opportunity to vote, don't wait till election day. Go ahead and get it in now. I'm
Oh, without
telling
a
you, I
doubt.
wouldn't. Yeah.
Without a
So if you
doubt.
believe in your person who you want to vote for, go ahead and get it in. So I know my candidate. He's a solid dude. Been doing it since I've known him 20 plus years. And man, hey, I want to go ahead and get my vote in now. So I'm encouraging those. Don't sleep on that. And so with that, bro,
Right.
like I say, man, and rock with those. Like I said, I want to take a moment and really talk about that, because a lot of us sleep on that, man. I hate to see people don't take advantage and who have an opportunity to vote not do that, man. I'm telling you, you do it you disservice in yourself and disservice in everybody else around you when you don't think it's your duty to do so. And so I want to encourage those who have an opportunity to vote, get out and vote as soon as possible. But back to what we're talking
Especially,
about.
man, especially when, like, our ancestors, bro, they
Mhm.
wanted to vote and the white people wouldn't let them vote. They would beat them up when they used to try to come in there to the polling centers. Come on, man. Why wouldn't you want to vote now when you got an opportunity to? You know what I think that is, then? That's just laziness, bro.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
laziness. Because even me, I'm a convicted felon, but I got the right to vote, and I'm voting. And I be voting, bro. I
Yeah.
vote. I voted for Kamala,
Mhm.
you know?
Same.
So,
100%.
yeah, so
Mhm.
I mean, and even though I don't live in East Cleveland, I live in Cleveland, but I'm still voting in Cleveland. I
Yeah.
just can't vote for Miss Morgan because I don't
Mhm.
live in the city of East Cleveland. But that's gonna change, man. That's gonna change.
Yeah, man. Well, I love your heart, man, because you speaking really my language, man. Sometimes God would call you something that you didn't foresee that this is where you wanted to go. If you'd have chosen pick and choose, you say you wouldn't have chose to come back to Cleveland, but God so chose you to go back to Cleveland. You just obedient and doing that. And so now that you're there, you're not trying to get in the mountaintop side. See, was you trying to say whatever I can find my hand to do, I'm going to start there and just be committed to doing that. And so that's great that you even say, man, hey, we need to clean the city up. Let's start here. Let's do the small things first, and then we can talk about some of the bigger and bigger things over time. But let's simply make our surrounding better. And so that's great, man. So what are you doing even in that space? Are you got a group of guys who y'all go and do that, or what are you currently doing, even though you put these other systems in place?
So we actually are trying to set up with the city of East Cleveland, man, trying to see where we can fit in there, man. I'm trying to
Mhm.
get some funds where we can get the trash bags and get everything, man, because finding the people to pick up the trash isn't hard, because I've had to meet with Judge Dawson. That isn't the issue. The
Mhm.
issue is just trying to find the funds to get the equipment and everything, man.
Mm.
That's the sports to pick up the trash. They don't have anything, man. They don't have vans. They don't have anything. So with my nonprofit, man, I'm trying to reach out. I've sent requests, like with the Ford Foundation. You
Mhm.
know, they give out money and grants and everything. So I tried to get with them to try to see if they can donate vans, right? Any things like that. So that's my thing, man. I'm trying to get with the community, man, with these car dealerships around here, man, to see if they want to help, man. But nobody kind of want to help East Cleveland, man, because everybody just been taking. But I'm here to change that. Steve, I'm trying to change that, bro.
Yeah. And this is something I've done, man. I've been privileged of working with several different organizations that's done some major things in our community. One particular, my good friend Paul, he was my best man at my wedding. And Paul, white male, moved to in my city, Rocky, which is not high crime like any other major city, but for us, it's high crime. He moved to the business crime area in our community, and he started a program called Adopt a Block. And what this was, where it's spin off of the the LA Dream Center, which has Adopt a Block out in LA. But he started it here. And basically what we did was on every first Saturday, we had 4 blocks, and it was different groups. We'd go out and knock on doors, get a chance to meet your neighbors. While we're doing that, we would clean up the block we was on. So you commit to a year to stay on that block, building relationships, in order to be able to have the right to share the gospel with people. So we didn't go in and just push Jesus down their throat, but we just wanted to build a relationship with people who were more open to it, who would pray with them,
Right.
you'd see things like that. So we started there, and before long, that community bought into what they were doing, and they started having the kids start participating, started being a part of it. So much so, we started a youth night with like 8 kids on Thursdays, and it grew to where we had like 30-some kids. So we ended up moving to another location to where we had like 50-some kids on Thursday nights. A lot of these kids who probably would be in prison now, some of these kids are doing very well for themselves. Truck drivers. One guy was in the Marines. One worked with Wells Fargo, and several others doing some very well. But my whole point I'm saying is we started with what we had, and we built on that. And other resources start coming, and other things start happening. But we started with the faithful few, the 1 or 2, and it grew over time. So we didn't take on the whole, the right side of Rock Hill. We just took on a block, and we committed to
Right.
stand with that block, and it grew to where it grew and grew over time, and more people participated. And so even now they have a church, they have other stuff going on in our city, but it started just him having a vision to start with his block. And then it grew to more and more. And so I encourage you, and I'm not sure what you have going, but I've seen it work even in a smaller scale. And I've had a chance to do that when we moved from there. Then we moved to another block and started doing it years later. Seeing that model still work even now. And so I'm in the process of now in my community, possibly doing something similar to that. So I'm just sharing with you, and I'll be glad to get you connected to what they're doing so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. So they got dream centers all over different places that you may say, man, this makes sense. Let me just kind of model what they got going on versus just starting from scratch on what I got going on. But I'm just sharing with you, I've
Okay.
seen it work time and time again. That's been very effective. But
Gotcha.
definitely, I encourage you, keep on doing the work that you're doing. You have the heart to want to be a change agent. And I can tell the truth to tell you, everything I've done, it started off small. Even when I got started doing men's ministry 20 years ago, it started off me and 2 of my neighbors meeting in the park on Thursdays. I don't know what Thursdays, it seemed like that's my day on a Thursday. We would go down there and have Bible study, and it grew from me doing that to that later on opened the door for me to be over the men's ministry at my church, to other doors open. I started doing a men's group in the community. Brothers stand for brothers reaching out to help every race and sex. And then we started mentoring programs, and me and Paul connected. It just more and more doors open, but it started off with me just being obedient with the small thing. Just
Right.
getting off and say, God, what do you have for me to put my hand to? And people always tell me, hey, go get this 501c. But guess what happened? The city started giving me money. The police department started giving me money. Other people started giving because guess what we were doing? Putting our hands to it.
Yep.
People were so into something that they see is moving. And so it wasn't never a problem of people coming to give us resources. I had to so much, I had to tell them at some point in time, we had to turn down some resources. Let me redirect some resources because we were doing some great things, but sometimes I didn't want to take on certain things, such as when let's say not Pilgrims Inn, but it was Red Cross. Well, it was one of the organizations in my area, and they wanted to give me some funding. I said, let me redirect it where we can partner with the employment office, and we could do something even bigger and better because they have it would be a better fit to do something for employment through them versus it come to us. And we ended up started that,
Right.
and man, it was a major, one of the biggest job fairs. And it kept on going from those years on because we saw it can help more people than the 300 we were probably serving. And we were able to have 1,500 to it grew to a couple thousand over the years. But good things happen the more and more you know what I'm saying, I found myself just putting my hand to it, not knowing all the ways, but just start doing a little
Right.
bit. And I saw more and more things happening. And so that was just my story about it. Yeah. So, but with that, bro, I appreciate you, man. If anybody want to connect with you, find out exactly what you have going on and find out how they can sow, or even have some resources that can benefit what you're doing, how can they do so? How can they reach you?
All right. So my website is Project Change, Project Change Recidivism. Recidivism is spelled RECIDIVISM. So it's projectchangerecidivism.com. That's my website. My email address is projectchangerecidivism@gmail.com. I'm on Facebook at Project Change Recidivism, and I'm on Instagram at Project Change Recidivism. So all of those platforms, you can reach me at any one of those, and I will gladly reach back out to you. Or if you're a member of the Divine Nine, yes, I'm a member of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. And we do have that in common as well as if anybody is a part of the Divine Nine.
Awesome, man. That's awesome, bro. I'm so proud for what you got going on, man. I look forward to us continue this conversation and seeing how we can collab and support what you're doing and try to see how more we can do to help expand that reach. And anything we can do, man, we want to be there to help. But if you can, could you tell the people before we leave, this is something that you may even speak to yourself, because I'm pretty sure we go through days when life is not going the way we like to. What's something that you empower them to keep on pressing for, even when life is not going the way they would like to? What would you say to the people?
Dashing. I don't want to be door dashing, man. It's killing me. But that's my income versus not bringing in any income, right? I'm married. I'm trusting this process, man, because I know God ain't going to bring me here to leave me here. I do know that. He's not going to bring me here to leave me here. He's brought me here with a purpose. So I'm trusting this process, and I know it's going to come. Every day I'm getting closer and closer to my dream, but I'm trusting the process in the meantime.
Go, that's good, bro. I appreciate you sharing that. So many things going through my mind when you're talking about that, because right now, even in my men's group, we're talking about something very similar. We're talking about going back to Genesis 1, 26 through 30, when God gave men pretty much his proclamation. What he told them, what he created them for, was to have dominion, to go out here and rule over the birds and creeping animals and all these different things. He gave them an assignment. But even with that, he told them, if you do that, he will definitely, they're going to pretty much, he had a call, he had a rule over him. And so you can't always look at how things are going versus what you've been called to. So you have to keep going, no matter what things look like on this day. It's going to rain some days, it's going to shine some days. But you got to be committed to that process of doing what you're called to do, because it's definitely going to do exactly on the back end what God has called it to do if you just stay committed to the process of it. So I appreciate you sharing what you shared, man. And I thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to be here to share with everybody else. And so I hope you guys got something so great from this conversation that inspire you and challenge you to be the change that you want to see. It doesn't matter what you've been through, because if you're still here, you got work to do. Thank you for allowing us to share this work with you. Man, I appreciate you, bro. We're going to keep this conversation going. Y'all have a great evening. Be great.
Thank you, Steve.